Hi, Felina Hansen here at Hera Hub interviewing Dorothy Sears, who is the Associate Professor at the School of Medicine for University of California, San Diego. And I invited Dorothy here today because she pretty much is one of the coolest women I know. We've had a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
And not only in her role at UCSD, but she is also the president of AWIS and leads hundreds of women in her profession here in San Diego. So before we dive into your background, Dorothy, can you just give us a skim on what AWIS is and who AWIS serves?
Yes. So AWIS stands for the Association for Women in Science. It's a national organization. There are 42 chapters across the United States, about over 4,000 members that we have right now across the country. And San Diego is the largest chapter here. And actually, as of January 1, I'm no longer the president. I'm past president, but did serve for over 3 years and love that. And so the mission of AWIS, national and locally, is to support women at all career levels who are interested in following their dreams of a career in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM as we like to call it. And so we do so supporting girls in elementary school, junior high school, college. Locally, we give scholarships away. We support our members through networking opportunities, career development seminars. And at the national level, AWIS actually advocates to the federal government to make sure that women have equal opportunity to pursue STEM careers.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Sure. But in 10th grade, when I started high school, I had an amazing biology teacher, Mr. Gilbert, and the very first day of school, my very first day of high school, so it was all very new and exciting, this guy was just so energetic about teaching us, and this is how he was every day. I actually had him that entire first year in 10th grade, and then for one other class after that in my senior year. The man would just be on the chalkboard back in the day when we had a chalkboard, and the chalk would just be flying, and he was wearing these corduroy OP shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, and he was just so cool, with a beard, but he was so excited about it, and his passion just filled me with passion and excitement about biology, and especially about DNA and RNA. And I remember going home and sitting at the dinner table with my parents and talking to them and my sister about, DNA and RNA and protein, and them not really understanding what I was saying, but I was just from that moment turned on.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I had chemistry for the first time, and I had Mrs. O'Donnell, and she was equally inspiring. She was so focused on making sure we understood the concepts that I felt really encouraged by her, and she was so creative about how she would teach. So those two instructors who really just gave their all to making sure we understood the concepts just opened the door for me to pursue that career. And from then on, I was going to be a genetic engineer, so that was what I decided in 10th grade.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Not quite what I do now, but that
yes.
was my goal.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So take us along your career, Dorothy. What are some of the highlights, some of the fun, interesting things you've gotten to do?
Well, with Mr. Gilbert in my senior year, I was taking anatomy and physiology, and so at this point I thought I wanted to be maybe a doctor and practice medicine. So we had the opportunity to go to UCLA and observe these surgical domes. You could look down. And anyway, after nearly fainting of seeing the blood and everything, I realized that perhaps a career as a physician was not going to be the path for me. But I, kept with it. I was actually pre-med in college at the University of Southern California, and where I was pursuing a degree in molecular biology and genetics, and working with DNA, and I was just thrilled about that. But the first summer I worked, after my freshman year, I worked in a small company in Pasadena. And so then here I was working with a company that was, testing new drugs and compounds, and I was working with real scientists. And at that point, I realized that the Ph.D. ones were the ones making all the creative decisions and the planning.
Yeah.
And that was when I decided that I needed to get the Ph.D. I wanted to be at that level of designing the experiments and coming up with the new ideas and being part of that creative energy. So it was that summer after my freshman year I decided I wanted to get the Ph.D. So then I would hurry up and get done with my bachelor's degree and then go off and do that. So that was a big turning point for me. Another important point was I was deciding which graduate school to go to, and I got some really good advice that I wanted to share, and that is that I could have gone to one graduate school program that was very focused on human genetics and working on DNA and human diseases, and it was very focused. And then the other one was a broad one where you learn all about different kinds of biology and chemistry and whatnot. And the advice that was given to me by one of my professors was, go for the broad education, because the broad education you learn about a lot of things, and then as you get more senior in your career, you can pick which specialization you want to do. Don't specialize yourself too early. And so that was really great advice for me, and so I went for that broad education, and that was great advice, and I would strongly encourage that.
That's awesome. So share one thing over the course of your career, maybe a project you've worked on that you got excited about, you fell in love with.
Well, that would have to be my recent diet clinical trial. It was my first clinical trial. So as I mentioned, I had wanted to be a physician, and and that didn't really work out to go to medical school. I think I would have fainted the whole way through. But as it turns out, my career path I've directed my career path to become more focused on human disease, and so specifically diabetes. And I really have enjoyed working on projects that are what we say translational. It means that things that I'm doing in the laboratory can translate into what can improve health care or disease prevention for people, real people now.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is why I want to try this. I want to do a clinical trial, so I want to study this. And so what if we could come up with a diet that was a diet that would reduce somebody's risk for type 2 diabetes? Something pretty simple, something easy to follow. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do this, and I had a colleague who's an MD, so I had to have an MD on board to examine the patients, and at UCSD we have nurses who could draw the blood because I couldn't do that. But what we learned some amazing things about this diet, and working with people and helping them lose weight and have a healthier life, even just for the 3 months that they were participating in my clinical trial, was really exciting for me. It was never a dull moment. I learned something new every day, worked with fantastic people, both my subjects in the clinical trial and also the team that I had assembled. And it was such an exciting time for me, and this is what I want to do now. I want to fully transition into working with people all the time in clinical trials.
That's awesome. That's exciting. And can I ask anything revolutionary can you share that came out of that, like one big takeaway that's public knowledge?
Well, we are going to publish it, but just to keep things simple, what I'll say is that, typically if you go to the doctor and you need to lose some weight, or, your doctor's going to look at your cholesterol, and the doctor will say, well, you need to lose some weight and you need to lower your cholesterol. That's good advice, but the thing is, what we learn is that in these two groups of people, just if you lose weight and your cholesterol is reduced, that doesn't necessarily mean that your risk for type 2 diabetes and other diseases like cardiovascular disease and cancer, it doesn't mean that your risk is reduced, even though you lost weight and your cholesterol went down. So I think this is really important for physicians out there, that the difference between these two groups was that their components of their diet were different. They were all low calorie, but not the same types of foods. So it's important that we learn more about, if you're going to go on a diet and have somebody reduce their risk for disease, we need to learn what are the foods that people need to be eating, and stop focusing just on weight loss and lowering cholesterol.
Great. Awesome.
So, we're writing it up now. So
good. I'm excited to see it. Awesome. Last question for you, Dorothy. What would your advice be for a young woman, maybe, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, who has an interest in some of the studies around science, maybe it's math like you, and perhaps she's getting pulled by some of her friends or not getting the support from her family that she's seeing? What advice might you give her?
Yeah, I would say give science a try. If you like it, go for it, and don't let other people tell you what you should be doing. what's the right thing to do. Don't worry if you think the boys aren't going to like you because you're a scientist. Trust me, if you're going into science classes, there are a lot of boys in those classes.
All
this is a
men.
good thing. And actually, in my graduate school program, we were 50% women. So
awesome.
there are a lot of women who are following this kind of career.
Yeah.
It is a very exciting career because it's always new.
Yeah.
You're always learning something new. And once you get into higher education, you're making new discoveries.
Yeah.
And so your life from one year to the next year is always changing. And you have no idea how it's going to change because you don't know what kind of discoveries you're going to make or what kind of discoveries other people are going to make that then, carve out a new path for you in your career. So I would say just go for it. Do what you love to do. And don't worry about the details of what you're going to be. I never could have guessed exactly what I'm doing now when I was 14 or 20 even.
Yeah.
So just go with what you love, and the path will become clear to you as you move forward. And keep your mind open, because you may think that you want to go to medical school, but it could be that you really would be an awesome physicist. And just be open to those things when they come out. Put yourself out for opportunities. Opportunities will come to you. There are people who are interested in supporting women in science, like our organization, AWIS, and others. So keep your eyes open for those opportunities. They will come. They will come. And let people know what you want to do.
That's such great advice, being very, very clear about what you're passionate about. I don't always see that being taught in school, and just being able to have that opportunity to share. I know AWIS does some mentoring programs with some other organizations, even reaching some of the grade school, junior high age school girls.
That's
so
right.
It's really awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for all your amazing work, Dorothy.
Thank you, Felina.
Of course.